So the most important thing is for everyone to stay, not only to stay excited and to stay energetic, but to go outside, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to your friends, call your mom. Like if nobody goes out, if everyone comes out to the rallies and then nobody goes out on April 19th, it's all for nothing. So the most important thing is for everybody to be canvassing and phone banking. And the thing is, a lot of people...
And I'm also the National Press Secretary for Latino Outreach for Bernie Sanders 2016. I'm really excited to be in New York. I've been traveling around this campaign, making sure that we are as inclusive as possible and that we are getting this message across our entire community to make sure that we elect Bernie Sanders, our next president of the United States. And, you know, I think it's really interesting when we started this campaign that, you know, we would watch the news, we would never see the millions, the thousands of people that would come out to our rallies on TV. We would never see, you know, the fact that we had somebody out there calling out on all these billionaires and millionaires who are literally right now not trying, but they are literally governing our country. We had never seen, I mean, in recent history, somebody that was willing to speak out about it, and we didn't see press covering that. And the contrary would see that and say, no, he doesn't have a chance. There's no chance that Bernie Sanders, you know, who is Bernie Sanders? He's not gonna get anywhere. But you know what? And by the way, I mean Bernie really has proven that we can, and it requires union, and it requires literally a movement to push it forward. And to me, the reason why I joined this campaign was because I believe in that. I really believe that Bernie can be that person that can bring the political revolution to this country. I am not a U.S. citizen. I can't vote. But I decided to join this campaign because I saw the struggle that my family had to go through when we crossed the border. About 18 years ago, my mother came to the United States. I was only 11, together with my siblings, my 4 siblings, running away from domestic violence in Mexico. And she said, you know what? I have tried very hard here to survive, and I just I can't see you guys living in this type of environment. I need to take you somewhere where you're going to be able to be a better person, where you're going to get ahead in life. And she took a huge, courageous action to bring us to the United States, to cross the border. And, you know, I was blessed to have a mother that is courageous enough to do that. Grown up here, and I was, you know, we actually moved into Arizona. I know, I asked my mom why Arizona, but I love my home. And we came to Arizona, and unfortunately when I started college, I was able to get into Arizona State University as an undocumented student, and it was a struggle. But the very first time I realized that it was going to be a struggle is when Arizona passed an anti-immigrant law called Proposition 300, which required for undocumented students to pay out-of-state tuition. And it was absolutely, for us, we were angry. Because we worked very hard. We were very hard as students, as immigrants in this country, and the more we go ahead, we keep hearing this horrible rhetoric from people like Donald Trump, from people that are so, I know, yes, exactly. That's the reaction of those of us who are here, and we know that that's not who we are, that's not what they're portraying, and it's not us. And unfortunately, Arizona decided to do all this. But one of the good things that happened was that because of that experience, we started mobilizing a group of students there in Arizona that started this amazing movement called the Dreamer Movement there. And we started getting connected to thousands of dreamers across the country, even from here, from New York, that started organizing it, building up this amazing movement that said, you know what, it's enough. You're not going to call me illegal. You're not going to call me criminal. You're not going to call me a rapist. I am Erica, I am undocumented, I'm not afraid. And that's who we are, and we came out and we said it. And we pushed against all odds, and I can tell you, we pushed not only against Republicans being so hateful, we also pushed against the Democratic establishment that keep telling us, no, you gotta wait. You gotta wait for us to come and save you. You gotta wait for an entire Congress to work so you can keep your family together. We said, no, we can stop deportations right now. We can stop deportations right now, and we can get President Obama to stop deportations. And guess what? We pushed hard. For the first time, people who have no power in this country to vote were able to push the most powerful man in the world, really, President Obama, to give us deferred action, to give us DACA, to give us a work permit, to be able to be here in this country, and to have an opportunity to prove that we can be somebody, that we can get ahead. And now I have a work permit, and I have the amazing experience now to be able to work for Bernie. That I was able to get my work authorization here in this country, that same day I was able to get my first job as an aide in Congress. I came home and I said, Mommy, let's celebrate. I have something really amazing to tell you. I just got a job with my brand new social. Trust me, those of you who were born with a social, it's really amazing to see your new card. When you're older now. And I was able to really have that experience, and I said, Mom, let's go celebrate tonight. She went to get ready, and that same night, somebody out there, somebody greater than us, told me it's not enough for you it's not enough, you gotta keep fighting for your family. ICE, immigration came to my own house that night, knocked on my door, and they took my mother and my brother. In that moment, I understood that I needed to keep fighting. That same night, I organized. I had already an amazing movement of dreamers that was behind, that we were together organizing, and we were able to come together. We made thousands of calls to immigration. We made thousands of calls to the White House, to Congress, and we said, please stop my mother's deportation. And that same night, it took us like 12 hours to get about 60,000 people to sign a petition, to watch a YouTube video. And in a matter of hours, the bus was going to Mexico already with my mother inside, chained up. 55-year-old woman chained up, going to Mexico. And somebody from DC called and said, stop the bus, bring her back. And it was one of the first times that I saw that it takes unity. It takes the community to come together, to be really with one another, sticking together and pushing forward, fighting together. And it's gonna take for us to be united in that same way, just like my community was able to stop my mother's deportation. Just like that, it's gonna take our community to come together and say, you know what, enough is enough. It's gonna require for us to unite and say, we need free college tuition. It's gonna take for us to unite and say, you know what, there's no reason why we cannot have free health care in this country for every human being, that it's a right, not a privilege. And it's gonna take all of us to unite and come together to change this political system that keeps being corrupted by Wall Street. And it's gonna require for us to unite and say, this is a time for a political revolution, and this is a time to elect Bernie Sanders as the next president of the United States. And it's gonna require all of you to unite with us, to make calls, to come to our offices, to canvass, to knock on those doors. And this is gonna be the way in which we're gonna be able to win New York, because we're gonna win New York. Are you ready for that? Thank you so much, and please get involved. Please knock on doors, please make those calls, and I will see you guys in our office, yes? Thank you all so much.
Instead of spending trillions of dollars on a war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into, we are going to reinvest in the South Bronx and the communities all over this country. reason in this country why people should be paying 40 or 50% of their limited incomes in housing. There is no reason why people should not have access to the health care that they need. There is no reason why in this country we should not have the best educational system in the world for all of our people. There is no reason why we should have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. There is no reason why we should have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country. What this campaign is about is telling Wall Street and the billionaire class they cannot, they will not have it all. We are going to create a nation in which our people have decent paying jobs, where our children are not unemployed, where our parents and grandparents can live with dignity on Social Security. And that is why we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. It is why we are going to have pay equity for women. It is why we are not going to accept deteriorating inner cities, why we are going to build affordable housing, why we are going to rebuild our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants. And when we do that, we create 13 million decent paying jobs. In America today, we will not accept a situation where the top 1/10% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. We will not accept a situation where the 20 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom half of America. We are going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. In America, people should not have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. And then after all of that, 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That's wrong. In this country, we can and will create a first-class public school educational system. I went to public schools in Brooklyn, New York. I had a good education, and I want every kid in this city and in this state to have a quality, good public education. And that means that instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires or fighting wars we should not be fighting, we're going to be investing in housing and education and healthcare. In this country, We should not be the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. When a woman has a baby, she has the right to stay home with that baby, not have to go back to work. And when we are talking about women's rights, we are going to stand and make certain that every woman in this country has the right to control her own body. And we are going to stand with our gay brothers and sisters. We are going to defend their right to be married. You know, a great nation is judged not by how many millionaires and billionaires it has. It is judged by how it treats the most vulnerable people in that country. I will not accept, and you will not accept, children in this country sleeping out on the streets. I will not accept, and you will not accept, senior citizens trying to get by on $11,000 or $12,000 a year Social Security. Instead of having a Congress that works for the benefit of the few, we are going to have a government that works for all of us. Now, I am a member of the committee that wrote the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act has done some very good things. We've ended the so-called obscenity of pre-existing conditions. We provided insurance to 17 million people who didn't have it. But we have much more to do in healthcare. The United States is the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. And together we are going to end that. 29 million Americans have no health insurance. Many of you are underinsured with large deductibles and co-payments. And the drug companies are ripping all of us off every single day. And after all of that, we end up spending much more per capita on healthcare than any other country on earth. We are prepared to take on the private insurance companies. We are prepared to take on the drug companies. And we are prepared to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. In my view, something I believe my whole life, health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. We are prepared to reform in a major way a broken criminal justice system. It is an international embarrassment that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. It is not unrelated that we have communities where young kids, white, black, Latino, Native American, are suffering unemployment rates of 30, 40, 50%. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to invest in education and jobs for our kids. Investment in education and jobs, not jails, not incarceration. And all of us are tired of seeing unarmed people shot and killed. Now, I've been a mayor for 8 years, and I've worked with police all over my state, all over this country. Vast majority of police officers are honest and hardworking. But if a police officer, like any other public official, breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We do not want to see in communities all over this country police departments look like occupying armies. We need to demilitarize our police departments. We need to make police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We need to end private corporate ownership of prisons and detention centers. We need to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have been arrested for possession of marijuana. Today, marijuana is listed under the Federal Controlled Substance Act as a Schedule I drug, right alongside of heroin. That is pretty crazy. And that is why I have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance. The right thing to do, but it is also a major racial issue, because it turns out that the black community, the white community, possess smoked marijuana at about equal levels. Blacks are 4 times more likely to be arrested than whites. But let me say something else when we're talking about drugs. In my state and all over this country, we have a major epidemic of heroin addiction and opiate addiction. This is a very serious crisis. The way to deal with that crisis is to understand that drug addiction, substance abuse must be dealt with as a health issue, not a criminal issue. When we talk about criminal justice reform, let me tell you a brief story. Turns out that Goldman Sachs, one of the large financial institutions, I gather you know about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs recently received a $5 billion settlement with the United States government. And they reached that agreement because they were selling worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans. And they and the the other Wall Street crooks were the people responsible for driving our economy into the worst recession since the Great Depression. Now here's a funny thing. Some kid gets picked up for smoking marijuana in Vermont or New York City. That kid gets a police record. But if you are an executive of a Wall Street firm, you don't get a criminal record for destroying this economy. You get a pay raise. Together, we will bring justice back to the criminal justice system. And equal justice under the law means that if you are rich or poor, you will pay the price if you break the law. That includes Wall Street. Let me say a word or two about some of the differences that exist between Secretary Clinton and myself. When we began this campaign, we had to make a choice. And the choice was, would we do what every other campaign is doing and establish a super PAC? We agreed with you. We decided after about 1/10 of a second thinking that we don't represent Wall Street, we don't represent corporate interests, we don't represent the billionaire class, we don't want their money. So what we did is reached out to working families all over this country. We have received now over 6 million individual campaign contributions. That is more contributions than any candidate in the history of this country up to this point. Anybody know what the average contribution is? Right? $27. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. Secretary Clinton chose to go in another direction in terms of how she raised her funds. She has several super PACs. Her largest super PAC reported raising $25 million from special interests, including $15 million from Wall Street. In addition to that, as some of you know, Secretary Clinton has given a lot of speeches on Wall Street behind closed doors. And she has received $250,000 a speech. Now, I kind of think that if you're going to get paid $250,000 for a speech, it must be a brilliant speech. It must be an earth-shattering speech, written in Shakespearean prose. If that speech is so great, I think the American people have the right to hear it. Now, I don't know why, but I myself have not gotten an invitation to speak on Wall Street. Not for $250,000, not for $25,000, not for $2. They haven't invited me. But, you know, I got my cell phone on and I'm waiting for the call. And if it comes, this is what I would tell those people on Wall Street. I would tell them that their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior has destroyed this economy, resulting in millions of Americans losing their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. I would tell them that they were bailed out by Congress against my vote because the big banks were too big to fail. But today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger now than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. And I would tell them that when you have a handful of financial institutions with so much economic and political power, now is the time to break them up. All of you know that learning and growing intellectually is a part of who we are as human beings. And all of you know that we live in a competitive global economy where we need the best educated workforce on earth. Now, 50 years ago, if you had a high school degree, you were doing pretty well, and the likelihood is you can go out and get a good job and make it in the middle class. But the economy and the world and technology have changed. And that is why I believe that when we talk about public education today, it is not good enough just to talk about first grade through 12th grade. We need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. My mother and father never went to college, but I want every kid in the South Bronx. All of you know that the history of real change in America never takes place from the top on down. It always takes place from the bottom on up. 100 years ago or more, when workers were being treated like animals, working 7 days a week, had no rights on the job, could be fired arbitrarily, workers came together, formed trade unions, and began to negotiate contracts and working conditions. For hundreds of years, African Americans and their allies stood up and fought back against racism, segregation, and bigotry. We don't know how many of them died, were lynched, were beaten. But people by the millions said that in America, we will not continue to have a racist society. 100 years ago, not a long time, women in this country did not have the right to vote, did not have the right to get the education or the jobs they wanted. But women and their male allies stood up and said, women in America will not be second-class citizens. If we were here 10 years ago, and somebody jumped up and said, you know, I think gay marriage will be legal in 50 states in this country, person next to him would have said, you are nuts. But as a result of the struggle of the gay community for decades against incredible bigotry and hatred, and with the support of the straight community, gay marriage today is legal in 50 states. If we were here 5 years ago, no time at all, somebody jumps up and says, Bernie, this $7.25 federal minimum wage is a starvation wage. We've got to raise it to 15 bucks an hour. Person next to her would have said, 15 bucks an hour? You're doubling the minimum wage. That is nuts. You can't do it. You got to go to $8, $9 an hour, not 15 bucks an hour. But people in the fast food industry, people in McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's went out on strike. They stood up, they fought back, and you know what happened? Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, 15 bucks an hour. Oregon, California, 15 bucks an hour.